The beverage. The story of the breakup can grow chilly. 9 years ago, I met my wife online. She lived in Savannah at the time I lived in Atlanta. We had a good time when I quickly traveled down to meet her in person, but I didn't sense a connection with her right away. After a few weeks, we reconnected. She informed me she had fallen in love with me when she came to see me this time. I actually liked her as a person and enjoyed our time together. Numerous things united us. She may be the ideal lady for me, but I'm not in love with her. Not quite yet, I supposed. I kept seeing her face when I closed my eyes and couldn't quit thinking about her after she departed. I've never really been good with girls, so maybe I thought I wouldn't get anyone else, so I forced myself to fall in love with her. That honestly doesn't seem to matter right now. Nevertheless, we kept dating, and after around 6 months, I had given my 2-week notice at my work, found another close to her residence, and moved in with her. She expressed her want to live out the rest of her days with me, and I firmly believed that I didn't want to be with anyone else. Approximately 5 months later, we were married. I should have probably mentioned these additional details earlier. She is Caucasian, and I am African American. She hasn't told her family that she's black since they wouldn't approve of her dating a black man. I have never met her family, but she has met mine. It's undoubtedly a special circumstance, but I didn't give a damn. Being with her was all I wanted. To be able to return home knowing that you have someone to snuggle and hold on chilly nights. Well, time passed and our relationship stayed positive. We're best friends and we don't fight much. We're not really gregarious people. In essence, we work, then we go home. I allow her to occasionally go out with her family since she enjoys doing that. However, don't always feel pleased with it. I am quite angry with her. I also spend a lot of time online and playing video games. Apparently too much. Only out of boredom. When she was home and watched TV or whatever else in the bedroom, I used to sneak into the computer room a lot. I would occasionally spend many hours there at a time. Initially, when she asked, I would go into the room with her. However, it appeared that she wouldn't really pay me any attention when I did visit. That everything was aimed at her phone or the TV. I therefore ceased entering the bedroom at her request. Though not always, it was most likely quite frequently. She also has a favorite place to go and eat. However, I don't much enjoy being among others. It's a Japanese steakhouse where you have to sit with strangers and watch them prepare the dish in front of you. I detest this. I would initially agree to it and go along, but thereafter I would say that it bothered me. She even made a vow not to ask me to take her there ever again at this point, that she would only accompany her family. That seemed reasonable enough to me. After all, she still got to leave. Well, I've noticed a difference during the past few months. We no longer express much emotion to one another, and our goodbye and goodbye kisses appear incredibly phony. About 3 days ago, I brought this up to her, and she replied she felt the same way. When I asked her what she thought we should do, she suggested that perhaps I should go. I was extremely saddened by this. She's been upset with me before, now. Sometimes she would tell me that before we could get along again, I had to make amends to her. She would start crying whenever I brought up leaving. It was never my intention to really go, though. I have no idea why I did that. Insecurity primarily. She had to express her desire for me to me. I would therefore say and do these horrible things. Nevertheless, as our conversation went on, she admitted that she most likely lost interest in me due to my neglect. She claimed that she had been experiencing these emotions for more than a year, but she was afraid of hurting me, so she refrained from speaking. This broke my heart, and I vowed to her right away that I would stop at nothing to get her back. To attempt and win back her affection, all I have to do is, in my opinion, the things I was never able to accomplish before. A day later, when we spoke, she expressed her want for me to stay longer. I asked her, and she didn't quite say it out loud. We had a great day together yesterday before she had to leave for work. I went to the shower and gave her a back wash, refused to use the computer at all, and even massaged her back. When she would ask for a foot rub when she got home, I would typically give it to her despite my grousing. When we first started dating, I would freely massage her feet every day after she got home from work. To be honest, I'm not very patient, and I know it will take a lot more than that to win her back. And by then, it might already be too late. I confronted her this morning to get a few things straight. She didn't love me the same when she first told me. She had just gotten ready to leave for work. I asked her whether I should give her a hug and a kiss before she departed after our talk. Yes, she replied, so I did. She gives me a weak hug and an okay kiss when we say goodbye over the next 2 days. I just asked her if she truly wanted to give me a hug, or if she was just trying to avoid upsetting me. She then broke down in tears and stated she didn't know how to get her feelings back. Then we delved back into everything. She says it again, perhaps we should take a break. All right, but she was unable to respond when I asked why. Just a day before, she had informed me that she didn't want me to leave. She admitted that she wasn't sure what she wanted. I go into the kitchen, fetch 3 garbage bags, and tell her I'm leaving since I'm starting to get a little frustrated by this point. She sobs and begs me to stay. I return to the room and question her about why, since she won't let me go. She keeps suggesting that we might need some time apart. She says she believes that's what I want. Does that even make sense? Now, I'm moving on from my life in Atlanta. She believes that because I left a well-paying profession and moved 4 hours away from my family to be with her, I desire to be apart from her. For the past 9 years, this place has been my entire universe. I want to be here and just here, with no one else. In an attempt to win her back, I want to try to alter who I am, but I can't help but feel that she doesn't really want me around and is just scared to tell me, or herself, because then she would have to face the fact that she isn't interested in being my wife any longer. She informed me that I knew it was a mistake to confront her this morning, because I seemed to be hurrying her. She said she wanted to lower her guard, but I had promised her in the past that I would, and I had, but only momentarily. It seems like I have to demonstrate my commitment to her, that she is something I truly care about. I apologize for the lengthy post. All I wanted to do was inform someone about this. I have not yet had a chance to talk about this with my family. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but my wife is quite depressed because she will soon reach 40. My age is 34. On the 25th, we will be celebrating our anniversary. I am aware that I must mature. I didn't appreciate her enough. She loved me so strongly that I knew no matter what I did, she would still be with me. I've come to understand that everyone has a breaking point, and regrettably, I pushed her past that limit. All I wanted was some advice. Do you believe I should try to stay in the house and win her back based on what I've said, or should I give her some space? I mean, this woman is everything to me. I wish to keep her close. I simply hope that there is still time. Our marriage is so transparent. She didn't mind at all if I browsed through her Facebook page or played around on her phone. She insisted that my laptop not lock me out after purchasing one recently. To utilize it, I didn't require a password. When she picks up the phone, it's me that exits the room. Therefore, concealment isn't actually there. She consistently claims there isn't anyone else when I ask her if there is. She did, in fact, begin a new job about a year ago, I will admit. But before that, things had been growing a little stale. No, our family is childless, mostly because of the circumstances around her families and the racial disparity we currently face. I hesitate to call them prejudiced because, as she says, they're not overtly racist. But if they realized I was black, they would just not be on board. I should probably also add that she promised her family to spread the word about me before I moved in with her before I arrived here. Naturally, I eventually discovered that this was untrue, and ever then, there have been problems with trust between us. I question everything she tells me. I was the one who originally suggested against having kids, but lately I've been more receptive to the notion. While we were still dating, she wanted me to conceive her. She is now the one opposed to it. We haven't discussed this in almost 2 years, to be honest. Indeed, I comprehend your perspective around the affair. The same ideas have been going through my head. I also neglected to clarify before that this is her second marriage. She first wed an older man when she was very young. She put her quits after realizing after roughly 7 years that she wasn't content. He just let her go, therefore in her opinion, he was also very much done. Didn't even attempt to engage in combat. She responded yes when I inquired if she still felt the same way about us as she had when she decided she no longer wanted to be with her first husband. I truly don't want to waste my time, but I do want to try and resolve things. After some thought, I realize that I am desperate and have low self-esteem. Since we are family, I didn't mind too much that I didn't know her relatives. To be honest, the majority of people are not fond of their in-laws. In any case, I'm writing this from a hotel room using my iPhone. My wife and I are splitting up that quickly. After I posted on this site, we spoke again, and she came out and said that the only reason she told me to stay was because she knew I had nowhere to go. After that, I packed most of my clothes and headed out. Yes, I did tell her everything that was going through my head. Of course, much of it was awful. Since I left, we haven't communicated at all. To attempt to get by, I'm probably returning to Atlanta for a few weeks. Sitting here in this town that only makes me think of her isn't exactly helping me get over this. Big update. My wife serves me with divorce papers as I head to the house to gather a few items for my return journey to Atlanta. I never would have imagined myself in this situation just a week ago. It didn't cause us to argue. Simply signed the documents after that. Then I investigated her. It's finished, I reasoned, and now I have questions. How about making an inquiry? I also said a few pretty harsh and nasty things to her. It was unavoidable for me. She told me there was an issue, but she took so long to notify me and made such a snap decision that really infuriated me. It's clear that she had been feeling this way for more than a year. It was in QUIC. This eliminates uncertainty, which is a positive thing. I don't have to wait by the phone like a puppy dog in love because I now know that she won't be calling to try to make amends. I feel numb, so I suppose the reality of things hasn't struck in. I'm not in the mood to cry. I'm not angry. Simply said, I'm impartial. It's almost like a relief. However, I'm confident this won't persist. I have nothing to show for my 34 years old. I spent 9 years living her life. I lived in her home, traveled in her car when we went out, and ate food that she had gone grocery shopping for. I do, in fact, own an automobile. For me, she simply made things far too simple. Furthermore, I had no trouble accepting all she offered me. The issue was that I was equally unappreciative of it. I suppose that's what terminated us. Alright, so my divorce is about to happen. The court date, according to her, is April 15th. And now it's a whole new chapter in my life. In 2 weeks, I'll be returning to my parents' house. What a loser. Okay, so I disregarded the golden rule. I was unable to simply leave. This came too quickly. I had to make one final argument. Tell her how awful I felt it was that she served me divorce papers today after dropping this bombshell on me less than a week ago. I feel so much worse now. I simply can't part from her. This is simply happening far too quickly, and I can't get out of this nightmare. Now that she's frigid and cruel. This was not the way she was in the good times. I should move on with my life, she says. Without her, I wouldn't be here. It is no longer there. After a few days, I become quite impatient and ask for an update. This was a grave error. This time, when she requests to go, I comply. After a few days of sitting at a hotel, I tell her I should come get a few items. She hands me the divorce papers when I get there. I sign, call her some pretty horrible things, and leave, all the while she adamantly insists that no one else exists. And that she has already been married twice and has given up on marriage. I don't really buy that when she claims she just wants to be by herself right now. Why, though, would she mislead me on that? She has said things to me like, I just don't love you anymore. I want you to be happy, but after trying to reason with her, she says there's nothing I can do to change her decision. I don't want that to be with me. She also claimed to be sparing my feelings, which is why she waited so long to tell me anything was wrong in the first place. She also believed that things would get better. However, after reading through all of these posts, I'm getting rather suspicious. Almost every instance that transpired similarly to mine included a third party. I wasn't specifically searching for the typical indication, but none of them were present either, or both. Her compensation reflected the hours she had to work when she had to stay late. She didn't really go anywhere else other than that. Our marriage was open and honest, and she even allowed me to view her Facebook profile. I believe she updated her information recently. In all honesty, though, I'm not really sure that I want to know. However, the idea can't stop buzzing through my head. Does it really matter right now? No matter how hard I try to talk to her, she's not coming back. She is not returning. I simply refuse to give up on the possibility of a reunion. Everything happened far too quickly. It was a week and a half ago, and I was feeling really happy. When we fast forward to the present, it is in total disarray. She doesn't even seem to care, which is the saddest part of it all. She claims she doesn't even think about me. My wife was a clingy person once. She made me feel bad about traveling for less than a week to visit family, saying things like please come back home and the like, and is very rude when she talks to me now. She seemed to change overnight from how wonderful she used to be. That's the issue. You see, officially, it was her parents' house. I took up residence with her. Sincerely speaking, the only reason I left was because I thought she might reconsider the separation after a few hours. The hours stretched into days without communication, and then our next meeting. Divorce papers are thrown in my face by her. Just give her a call and edit or update. She continues to sing the same song and says that the harsh things I said to her after I signed the divorce papers are why she is acting so badly toward me now. Like it doesn't hurt that she did this to me. Besides, really, what was she expecting? She has been deceiving me for a minimum of a year. Then, it seems to be too late when she eventually summons the courage to tell me something is wrong. This time, though, she did appear a little more reasonable and opened up a little more. However, I continue to believe that there's more to this narrative than she's giving me. Something doesn't stack up. Perhaps she just wanted to get rid of me since I was her beast again. I didn't want to try to make her stay with me just so we might become miserable together, just like my mother or my dad. The only issue is that I absolutely do not want a divorce. It's the first day I haven't felt like a complete loser since my wife asked me to leave. In addition to creating a dating account and seeing a number of people I didn't realize I even knew, I also have a job interview in the morning. Just for kicks, I didn't give the STBX much thought during the day. That will undoubtedly alter when it's time for bed, but at least I'm improving gradually. I've been employed, but because our marriage didn't work out, I'll probably need to move to the Atlanta region. In terms of the match, I cannot afford to stay in hotels every night. Well, I know I'm not ready for a relationship just yet, but it never hurts to announce to the world that I'm back out in the wild. Calm down. One of her main complaints about me was that I didn't spend enough time with her. It was never my desire to do what she desired. It was all about me in that relationship. When she insisted on going to see her relatives, I became enraged. Everything seems so simple and straightforward, and that's what bothers me so much about it. I would have changed for sure if she had just talked to me about these things and shown me how important they were. She simply gave up. I seem to remember that she has done something similar before. Perhaps it is the reason it comes so naturally to her. She ended her 7-year marriage to her first spouse because she was unhappy. Update: I was therefore meant to return to work today and give my 2-week notice. Travel to Savannah for 4 hours and enter a dangerous area. I informed her yesterday that I couldn't afford to pay for a hotel room each night, therefore I would have to remain with her for the next 2 weeks. Not totally accurate. However, we are still legally married. Fortunately, I was spared from going there. She agrees grudgingly but establishes some guidelines. There is no way I'm going inside her room. I'll try to get with her, she thinks. I agree, of course, and I'll be on the couch. That was yesterday. When I woke up this morning, I was overcome with dread. That house was just not somewhere I wanted to return. I was told to just phone my employer and request a resignation. In this manner, I may utilize my experience there as a reference and avoid leaving on negative terms. The best part was I wouldn't have to go anywhere. That's what I did, and it makes me much happier. In fact, I'm happier than I've been since this whole affair began. I just tell her via text that I won't be attending. Why not? She replies via text. I remain silent. I ignore her text message when she sends it again. She then remarks that I should receive the remainder of my belongings at my parents' residence. I just say, okay. She texts me again, stating she couldn't afford to send it all at once and would have to send it one package at a time. Again, I just say okay in response. At last, she asks, are you really not going to attend? I considered not responding at first, but I wasn't sure it would be beneficial. So I just said no in response. Then she responds, okay. Now I'm feeling a little better. I won't have to see her anymore, at least. That would have been really challenging. It's time to put an end to the discourse and start acting on the desire to move on. I'm only creating misery for myself. According to my STBX, she mailed my copy of the divorce decree on Monday. I still haven't gotten them, and it's Friday. She resides in the same state but 4 hours distant. I texted her to find out the precise time she sent out the paperwork. I ought to have just let it go after that. However, I then questioned her about her plans and whether she had any weekends off from work. From that point on, things just got worse. I told her everything, my entire heart. I told her that we had 8 wonderful years and 1 terrible year, and that I didn't deserve to be treated this way. I questioned her about why she was acting like the marriage was awful overall and only concentrating on the bad things. All she says is that she wants to stop being with me. It felt like a dagger to the heart to read that. She believes I should leave her alone and go on since she's bothering me. I tell her that she was my life and that her suggestion is incredibly inconsiderate. She merely states again how much she no longer loves me. Again, reading was excruciating. I'm not sure if I can, but I know I should just leave. I definitely can't bear to read or hear her deny her love for me any longer. But it's impossible for me to ignore her. Simply put, I lack willpower. This is really depressing. I sincerely hope that someone could erase her memories completely. Here's another update, then. Perhaps there will be a reader. Perhaps not. Our 8th anniversary is tomorrow. The divorce is scheduled to finalize in around 3 weeks. My copy of the divorce documents arrived in the mail yesterday. She seems content enough without me in her life, but I keep waiting for her to phone and tell me that she has changed her mind. That is the main thing about this that irritates me. She's totally unconcerned that I'm here in hell. I think she's relieved that I'm gone. I wish I could just stop feeling this way about her. But they're not going to disappear overnight after 9 years. This morning, she texted me to inquire if I had received the paperwork. I just said yes, to which she gave me a K, and that was all. I was quite inclined to continue, but I held back. I can't stop thinking about her, and the idea of her with someone else bothers me excessively. She avows categorically that no other man exists, that she merely desired solitude, but I find it hard to believe that at all. She once told me that if she had to die, she would rather die alone. It seems as though she has suddenly become content with being alone. Though to be honest, I don't want to know, I smell bullshit. At this point, it really doesn't matter, and learning that there is another man in the picture will just make me feel worse. Our anniversary was yesterday. She texts me to let me know that, as she was unaware of what the divorce hearing summons was at the time, she will be sending it to my present address. She turned in the paperwork. She received the summons from them. I cracked up. I informed her that I was going to fight the divorce and that I wouldn't allow her to do this to me. I didn't pick up when she tried to call me right away. I simply continued the chat via text messages. I informed her that I didn't like that she listed the irreversibly shattered marriage as the grounds for our divorce because she didn't even offer us an opportunity to try to mend the marriage. Recall that I understand the ILWY and ILYB speech, divorce, and divorce decrees in less than a week. I told her she was being self-centered. I was requested to speak with her. I told her I would see her in court and that I had nothing else to say. To be clear, I didn't plan to argue with anything. All I wanted to do was screw with her head. I ended up texting her to let her know that I would call her later and that I was ready to talk. She informed me that she was out with her folks and would let me know when she returned. She texted me after around 6 hours, saying she's back home and has made a few calls. I purposefully took my time approaching her. It took me about 4 hours after her "I'm home" text before I eventually gave her a call back. After our pleasant conversation, she acknowledged that her treatment of me had been incorrect. I informed her that I would only be doing it out of spite and wouldn't be contesting the divorce. I informed her that her actions will be held accountable to God. After that, when we discussed some old topics, it really seemed as though we had returned to happier days. It was really lovely. My threat to dispute and my statement that I deserved to be with someone who would love me as much as I love them probably made her sucking up to me. She concurred. I then advised her to go with the divorce if that is indeed her desire. She concurred. Then it's just the two of us. I no longer want to speak with her over the phone. Don't send any more texts. Nothing. Though she remained silent, she reiterated that I wouldn't challenge her decision to divorce me. After telling her I wasn't, I hung up. I feel like I've found some closure at last. Not that I don't still want my wife back, I just feel like I can start the healing process at last. Will this alter in the next several days? Most likely, but at least for now, I feel almost at peace. After over a year of lying to me, she eventually comes clean, but not before denying me. No, she doesn't even give us an opportunity to try and make things right. She shares with me her true feelings about SETI. Admittedly, I shouldn't have pressed her further, but when I asked for an update a few days later, she stated we needed some time apart so she could gather her thoughts. I'm thinking, alright, I'll take a break and then come back to attempt to figure things out. No, she hands me divorce papers 2 days later. I thought our marriage was going pretty damn well, not even a week ago. She handled things in a dishonest and, in my opinion, pretty harsh manner. Then, she treats me really badly and rudely when I try to get in touch with her. What action did I take to earn this? She simply turned away from me. How can you treat someone that you know genuinely cares about you in that way? This is not how I would have treated her. I would have spoken up if I had been so bothered by something that I thought it was endangering our marriage. I also wouldn't have played it nice. I wouldn't have allowed it to worsen until my love for my wife was totally destroyed. While I can't claim to be flawless, at least I was consistently truthful. And once more, the night arrives just as I start to feel better. These days, I detest going to bed. My mind is racing with all of those sensations and emotions, and I'm having trouble falling asleep. And I dream about her when I do fall asleep. It's weird, I barely ever dreamed about my wife when we were together and happy. So, Friday night, I checked the STBX's new Facebook page, and it just makes me angry. It was taken only the day before, and she looks gorgeous with makeup on. Why does she appear to be on the prowl when she has been adamantly declaring that there isn't anyone else and that she has no interest in attracting anyone else? Just to be clear, my STBX was by no means glitzy. She would typically be wearing jeans and a t-shirt with her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Didn't wear makeup very much, either. I should know better than to even glance at her Facebook profile. All it does is cause me to feel depressed and alone again. However, it was an accident this time. I'm not sure what I was trying to establish, but I asked her about the photo. She claimed that she was taken out on her birthday by her brother and sister-in-law, a movie and dinner. She assured me that she didn't necessarily want someone else simply because she didn't want me anymore. She claims to be content on her own. This is a woman who once confided in me that she would sooner die than be left alone. Then, we started a text war of words. I'm aware that none of this will aid in my recuperation, but I was powerless over myself. I definitely need get back into fasting and strengthen my resolve. I told her stuff like I don't think I ever truly loved her, and that I was only attracted to the security of a relationship, my work, her house, and so on. She claimed to be aware that my only intention was to harm her, but it was failing. Then she informed me that she would no longer be responding to me. Still, I kept typing. I know it's incredibly foolish and childish, but once more, I couldn't resist. The following morning, yesterday, I called her to apologize and thank her for talking to me despite my recent rude behavior. I also made another unsuccessful attempt to get in touch with her to ask her to reevaluate this divorce. Naturally, she replies no and doesn't think twice about it. I beg her, please, to make an effort to recollect the man she fell in love with. He is here. I then share some really happy experiences I had, along with a couple she said she didn't even remember. I hung up the phone after telling her that I wanted her back. Now that I've apologized and made a more amendable exit, I feel better. However, I still wish she wasn't pursuing this. I'm aware that I must go on and that I must get therapy of some form. However, I think that this is simply too much for me to handle. All I want is for the anguish to end. It ought to be simpler to separate under my circumstances. I don't even need to talk to her or see her. Each of us is 4 hours apart from the other. It's me who choose to cling on. She doesn't appear to have any difficulty letting go of me, for sure. She assures me she has no regrets and doesn't miss me at all. I find it hard to accept that. Maybe it's my ego, maybe it's just false hope. I just can't let her go because of it. However, would she really be pushing me away in this way if she had true affections for me? Her birthday was April 1st. That day, I didn't give her a call or text. She kind of warned me not to anyhow when we last spoke. Some of my belongings are still in her residence, and she promised to send them to me on a regular basis, a little each time she gets paid. We never really got into the details, so yesterday night I texted her to make sure she was still planning to do that and to find out when I could expect the first package. She promised to send the first one the following day. I said, okay, and that was my response today. Not even brought up her birthday. I wonder whether she became agitated. That being said, this 180 thing. Fantastic idea, but I'm facing some major obstacles. Advises you to get out and do things more. Alright, but I have very little money and am unemployed. Suggests making contact with former acquaintances. Alright, so I don't have any pals or interests. Not very passionate about anything. I'm essentially limited to sitting around at the moment. Try performing some sit-ups and push-ups. Use the treadmill. With all this spare time, what else should I do? In a period of weeks, I go from blissful ignorance to total heartbreak. I'm still holding out hope for some miracle to save this whole enterprise, but right now I'd be better off placing a wager on Janet Jackson. The traditional walk-away wife is my ex. What I'm really curious about is whether any of the women here who separated from their husbands ever felt guilty after filing for divorce. My spouse claimed that over time, my long-standing neglect of her eroded her affection for me to the point that she was unable to continue living with me. Thus, here we are. I'm not sure if I'm just hoping for a delusion of hope or what. I've prayed about it and asked for wisdom. Even if all the evidence points to this being a lost cause, my denial and stubbornness simply won't let me give up. I understand that this way of thinking is detrimental to my 180-degree turn, which I am just starting. But is wanting a reconciliation with my wife really that wrong? She seems like the perfect fit to me. We shared so many things. In many ways, we are the same person. This doesn't seem to be finished yet. She's finished. I think it's because of how seemingly she came to her choice that I feel like it's not finished. On a Friday, she served me divorce papers. On a Wednesday, we split up, and she abruptly gave me the "I love you but not in love with you" statement. She claimed that she had been experiencing these feelings for about a year, but she had kept quiet because she didn't want to offend me and assumed things would get better. Who knows how long these feelings have really been with her. I started the 180 because, until about a week ago, I was texting and bothering her. And a few of them are very offensive. I was powerless to resist. I couldn't comprehend how she could suddenly fully turn her back on me while I was in such pain. She is unwilling to interact with me. Her 40th birthday was April 1st, and she told me not to text her on her birthday. Genuinely broke my heart. I followed her instructions, though. For the past 4 days, I have not spoken to her in any way. In an attempt to resist the urge to text her once more, I've even shut off my phone. I really do miss her a lot. The fact that she doesn't miss me too devastates me. She flatly denies any affair, and I have no hard evidence of it. She claims she simply needs time to herself. She claimed that this is her second marriage and that she is simply over the burden of being in a marriage. Those were her exact words. It hurts too much. I acknowledge my role in this. I kind of ignored her requests for me to spend more time with her. I assumed we were the same people that go to work and then return home. We spent most of our leisure time together. I used to fart around on the computer while letting her watch TV in the bedroom. I've never been the kind to spend a whole day in front of the television. I thought the separation would be beneficial. Yes, I was in error. There were more factors as well. Like this restaurant, which I detested and she enjoyed going to. She even made a vow to stop asking me to take her there, so I assumed it would be okay since she could attend with her family. She was still getting to go, right, wrong, and so on, I guess. When I look back, the relationship seems to be rather one-sided. She merely followed my wishes. It was all about what I wanted to do. To be fair, though, there were a few times when I would seek her opinion on a certain matter, and her response would always be, "I'm not sure." Perhaps she assumed that I would reject whatever thoughts she might have. I suppose I'll never find out. I did, in fact, give her mother a call a few weeks back. It was our first conversation ever. I started getting texts from contacts on her phone for some reason. I receive an odd message saying, "Well, shrimp tonight." My ex told me it was her mother when I asked her about it. I still had this message on my phone even though it was almost a year old. I picked up the phone. It was, indeed, her mother. But I didn't say that I was black. What's actually the point of that at this point? She is divorcing the man. Edit to return to my wife's earlier remarks regarding their disconnect. Although I acknowledge that, I also had complaints. Of course, I was left out of family get-togethers because of our racial circumstances. She was accepted by my immediate family, but now that I was 4 hours away, she would prefer to visit her parents' place on holidays, leaving me by alone. I informed her that I would rather she spent at least one of the big holidays at home with me. I promised her she would spend Christmas with me if I let her go on Thanksgiving. But this was something that troubled her always. She would sulk about the house until I gave in and allowed her to go. I always let her know exactly how I feel about things, so even though this wounded me, she could tell when I was clearly angry when she arrived home. My comment, we'll find out tomorrow about what happened to Opus. Please subscribe,